What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Double D Report. Me and Dean are back for another episode. Well, this is the first time we're back in full capacity. It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks. 2 long weeks. But this week, we're going to talk about the NBA and the NHL. Two massive things that are going on right now. The NFL is going to be pushed off to the side for a week. It could wait. A lot of shit's going on in the NBA and the NHL. Dean, what would you like to start on first?
I would love to start with the NHL.
Oh, really? I'm shocked. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know why you're shocked, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. What game you want to start off with first? We could go Edmonton.
I mean, there's been so many great playoff matchups. I know we originally were talking about the first round matchups. I know I failed miserably when I said my Stanley Cup was going to be the Kings versus the Lightning. I am going to go Tampa Bay versus LA.
I understand hockey is very randomized with the Stanley Cup because it's never consistent. But are you smoking crack?
I quote it. Look, this ain't no NCAA tournament bullshit, right? Where I get every single prediction wrong. This is my territory. Both teams were ousted in the first round. So another L for me on that one, which just continues to pile up as we go on throughout this podcast. However, that being said, the second round is offering some absolutely phenomenal matchups. I think I want to talk about the best one so far, right? And that's Maple Leafs Panthers. These two teams are Stanley Cup caliber teams. We already knew that about the Panthers being the former Stanley Cup champions. The Maple Leafs always seem to fall short every year, right? They always seem to not be able to get past that second level of the playoffs, whether it's choking against Boston in a best-of-7 series, whether it's, just losing straight up against the Panthers. This seems to be the year where they have a legitimate chance, just based on how everybody is contributing, where they can win this series, right? Yes, they won the first two at home. They lost the next two on the road. However, if you're going by that logic, they have home ice advantage.
Nope.
So this next game, Game 5, is going to be absolutely massive for both of these teams. That goes without saying, obviously, but I wanted to know your thoughts on it, Derek. Obviously, the Maple Leafs beat the Senators 4-2 in the first round, and Florida wiped the floor with Tampa Bay, forcing a slew of firings on their end. But thoughts?
All right, so my honest opinion on this series, one, I'm very happy with the series. I was afraid, honestly, that the championship caliber team on Florida, with them being in the Stanley Cup last year, would trail over to this round. And I thought they would have decimated them, honestly. And the way they played in the first round, they played outstanding. They absolutely, as you said, firings just kept on going in Tampa. But for this series, I'm just very, very happy because obviously I think we spoke about it, and it goes for NBA and goes for NHL. When you're on the road, if you're able to take one game, that's good. That's phenomenal. If you're able to somehow take 2 games, that's a great fucking way to start the series. And that's what that's what Toronto did. They took the first 2 games on the road, and then of course they lost the next 2 games at home, which it does suck to not take one at home, but you still have home ice advantage. But I think that being on home and ice advantage for Game 5 is very, very huge. Very huge. And I think, honestly, this is not like a little segue. I think Toronto's going to take this next game to make it a 3-2 lead, honestly.
Yeah, look, this has been a great series. I know there was some controversy in the beginning of the series when Toronto's goalie, Anthony Stolarz, got hurt. Seemingly a concussion. It's obviously not confirmed because the NHL kind of just says upper body injury, but it looks like he had a concussion. He is starting to practice with them, which is a good thing, but Joseph Woll has had to step up for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He did step up in Game 2. He's faltered a little bit in Game 3 and 4. Game 4, it wasn't even that bad, right? He only gave up 2 goals, but the Florida Panthers completely shut out the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I kind of pushed that to the side. That's really not on Woll. He's stepped in quite well. Nylander has been an absolute menace this playoff so far. 15 points, 6 goals. I mean, he has been the Toronto Maple Leafs star player here, obviously, other than Mitch Marner, who has been consistently outstanding during these playoffs. I think there's a little bit for concern on the Maple Leaf side, only because you haven't really gotten much from Austin Matthews
He's not even
as
there.
of I'm not going to say he's not even there. Let's not go crazy here, right? He still has 10 points in this playoffs. So I don't want to just dismiss him altogether, right? They've played 10 games, he has 10 points. So it's not like he's just invisible. But when he is your captain and they have relied on him so many times throughout the years to score goals, 10 games in, only 2 goals, it's a little bit cause for concern. And then if you look on the flip side of that, maybe it's not, right? You're tied 2-2 with the defending Stanley Cup champions. You already won a series, and yet he only has 2 goals. So the hope for the Maple Leafs is, right, he gets going. If he gets going, combined with everything else that's working for your team at this point, right? If you can combine him with Nylander's scoring efficiency so far in these playoffs, with Max Pacioretty, with John Tavares, with Mitch Marner, it's just going to be that much more lethal on the offensive side.
Yeah. I can't agree more. Honestly, it's because them them as like a Toronto as a whole team. Obviously, you and me, we did shit on them to going into the playoffs. We did say, I think you and me both said, because of the past years that we've seen, we weren't expecting a lot out of them. But with all their role players, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares, all stepping up, and it gives Austin Matthews like the leeway to where he could be getting 1 assist a game. He doesn't have to worry about going for like a goal and an assist and putting a lot of pressure. The pressure's taken off of him. But in these big moments, this is a game 5 at home. It's a huge game. You have to take this game at home.
I couldn't agree. Massive implications, because if you do lose this game at home, you have to go into Florida with your season on the line against the defending Stanley Cup champions, where Florida has been outstanding at home this playoffs, right? So it's tough. There are a bit different styles of teams. The Maple Leafs have almost had to adjust to that physicality that the Panthers bring, right? They are a nasty, dirty, tough team where they're all of their top guys, whether you're looking at Marchand, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Bennett, Tkachuk, all of these guys can get within the forecheck, can really pound the shit out of you into the boards, and they can tire you out. And I think it showed in that game 4 specifically, where the Maple Leafs had pretty much zero offensive prowess, right? The Panthers completely shut them down from start to finish, and that's the type of style that the Panthers play. So you have to hope that the Maple Leafs bounce back in front of their home crowd, because if they lose game 5, I don't want to be pessimistic just because they are a great team, but if they lose game 5, your backs are really up against a wall going back into Florida.
Yeah, that would be, especially like as they're the defending champion. Even though like in NHL, it's not like back to back teams. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL, to where back to back teams win the championship. That never happens in the NHL. It rarely ever happens.
Because there's parity.
Exactly. So if say for example, if Florida, they got hot, they played great game 4. If that continues over, it's going to be a very tough game 5 for them. Very, very tough.
I agree. I think this, I don't want to say a must win for the Maple Leafs, but so far within these playoffs, this is as close to a must win as it's come.
I honestly would say it is a must win, because you did lose your first two. You did lose your first 2 games at home. You need to get this one win at home, and getting a win at home and game, because I don't remember the last time Toronto was in the Western Conference Finals.
It's been quite some time.
Yes. So this is huge for their franchise to even get there, honestly.
Look, the Maple Leafs have been here every single year. They've continuously gotten better and better talent, homegrown talent, mind you. Just look at Marner and Matthews to begin with, and then you bring in these guys like Nylander, you bring in these guys like Tavares. They're constantly getting better. So, and not to mention this year, along with other years as well, they've finished first in the Atlantic Division. So it's almost getting to that point where you got to have something to show for it. You can't just constantly go to the playoffs with these unbelievable records and these unbelievable players, especially with Mitch Marner probably leaving this offseason. It's crunch time, right? You're not getting these players aren't getting any younger. They're not really improving. Like you know what Austin Matthews is, right? Tavares is coming up on retirement in the next few years. You know what William Nylander is. So this is their prime. This is when they would have to do it.
And I think we've both said this. Like, this is huge. This series in general is huge for Austin Matthews' career, in my opinion, because from what we've seen is we haven't seen that, especially in the Four Nations tournament. We haven't seen that clutch gene out of him. He's the first. I think he's on pace to be 100 goals short of Ovechkin.
If he plays as long, it's going to be very close.
Yes, he's compared to be one of the best players in the NHL. But in the regular season, he plays amazing. I can't say he doesn't. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's like, or in clutch scenarios like the Four Nations tournament, it's like he vanishes into thin air.
Yeah, it's tough. And this is coming from a franchise who hasn't won a cup since 1967. So, I mean, you got to step up. This is one of the premier players in NHL history, not just, in our lifetime. You gotta have that legacy moment. Ovechkin had it eventually with the Capitals. Crosby's had multiple with the Penguins. All the greats have had them, whether you're looking at Messier, Lemieux, Gretzky. They all had their moments. And I think it's time for him to step up. But I think we're on the same page there. Huge Game 5 implications coming up tomorrow night. I'm not sure I wanted to talk about a series, Derek. More or less, I wanted to talk about the West in general, right? We had some great series in the first round. The Blues brought the number 1 seed, the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets to Game 7. Not only to mention Game 7, the Jets needed to score a goal in regulation 1 second left just to bring it into overtime to save their season in Game 7. Then you had a Stanley Cup caliber series in itself with the Stars and the Avalanche, right? We know how that ended. The Stars wound up winning and edging them out. Is there, in your opinion, Derek, between the Jets, the Stars, the Knights, and the Oilers, is there a clear-cut favorite that you look at right now within that Western Conference Final Four?
Honestly, no. Because from what I've seen, look, obviously right now, Edmonton's up 3-1 against the Golden Knights. I believe Dallas is up 2-1, and their game is going on right now.
Correct.
And I honestly think I have a top 2. Honestly, my top 2, and it's like not even like me saying it because they're in the lead. I just think Edmonton is playing outstanding. McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse, Nugent Hopkins, all these players are playing phenomenal. And even they're stopping one of the best teams, which is the Golden Knights in the West. They were, I think, what were they considered? The second best team in the West?
They were considered the second best team only because they finished first in the Pacific.
Yeah. They're having a great series, especially last series, to where they were going against the Kings, who were like on fire. They were statistically on fire. And they beat, I believe they won in 4-1.
Yeah, they pretty much molested 4-2 the Kings. The Kings really only won the 2 at their home arena, but then the Oilers pretty much took it down.
Yeah. So I think if I had to pick a clear favorite, it'd probably be them. But then a close second would be Dallas, honestly, because, for example, in the first series, Rantanen, their newly acquired guy from Carolina, who was from Colorado, he was a shell of himself. He didn't play. He had 1 point through 3 games. In the last game, he had 3 goals. And then in the next game, Game 1 of the Winnipeg versus Dallas series, he had 3 goals again. it and all the players, Ben, Wyatt Johnson, Rantanen, everyone's playing very well. Don't get me wrong, they're going against. You said they were the President's Trophy winner, correct? Winnipeg.
Yes.
Yes.
Jets won the
Yeah.
Trophy. Yep.
So they're playing very well against them. And if they're able to capture this game, then they'll be up 3-1 against the best team. And I can only see a great series between Dallas and Edmonton in the future.
Look, it's tough to argue with that. It's so hard to discount the President's Trophy winning Jets just because of what they've done during the regular season. But one of their biggest issues, it's not the players, it's not their system, it's Connor Hellebuyck, right? This is the Vezina winner of this year. He is going to win the trophy, the Vezina, for the best goaltender in hockey this year. And out of all of the qualifying 26 goaltenders that have had appearances to start in these playoffs, Hellebuyck is ranked 4th to last in goals against.
He's playing like shit.
So when you rely so heavily on goaltending, which is what the Winnipeg Jets do, right? They would not be in this position. They would not have won the President's Trophy if it was not for the Vezina winning trophy winner, Connor Hellebuyck, right? They had the least goals against in the NHL this year by a large margin. They're the only team in the NHL this year to allow less than 200 goals in their 82 games. So Hellebuyck has been a huge influence on this team to get where they are now, right? And that's not going to change. This is how it's going to be. They've always gone through him. They're going to go as far as he goes, and he has not showed up so far this series. It's depressing when you look at it because of how great he was. And then you look in the playoffs, his away playoff games have been absolutely atrocious. Atrocious, Derek. He has over 4 goals against in away playoff games this postseason. You're just not going to win games when your goalie is performing at that level. I don't care who he is. So it's hard not to take Dallas, who their offensive clicking, right? You're 100% correct. Rantanen looks unreal. He has the most points out of any player right now in the playoffs. And that's over Draisaitl, McDavid, Matthews, Marner, Nylander. That's over all of them, right? So Dallas should be the clear-cut favorite when it comes to it. However, I completely agree with you. I don't know if you can discount the Oilers, right? They got there last year. Their offense is still unbelievable, really hard to stop. The only issue with the Oilers is, which it was last year, goaltending. Right? They've gone through multiple goaltenders this postseason. They do not have one, whether it's Pickard or whether it's
Skinner.
Thank you. Went blank on it. Pickard or Skinner, right? They don't have a set starting goalie, which is it always catches up to you. So it's hard to put money on them to come out of the West. I think the clear-cut favorite here is Dallas until proven otherwise.
I mean, that's fair to say, honestly, because Dallas is actually they versed Colorado, which were odds-on favorite to. They were obviously the third favorite to win it, to win the Stanley Cup. Then you go on to Winnipeg, the President's Trophy winner, and you're giving belt to ass.
Yep.
And then now they would have to go. They will be going against Edmonton, which is another good team. They versed good teams after good teams after good teams.
Yep.
So I could see where you're coming from. I 100% see that. But for me, I don't know what it is. Like this Edmonton team, it seems to be different as previous years. I don't know why, even though it's not. It's literally the same exact team.
It's really not, in the sense that, look, their prototype, the way they win games, it works, right? They're averaging over 4 goals a game. I mean, that's how you win. That is definitely one way to go about it. That's how you win hockey. The Colorado Avalanche did this 3 years ago when they won the cup, right? Just straight fucking offense. I'm going to outscore the shit out of you. And it worked. It worked. They got some goaltending help, obviously, but it worked, right? In Darcy Kemper. I get it. The Oilers don't have that goaltending help, right? If push comes to shove in another Game 7 or in a close Game 6 with a physical team like the Panthers or like Dallas, can you rely on Pickard or Skinner to really, not allow more than 2-3 goals?
No.
I don't know. I just don't. It's tough because they really do have a great offense and they could probably go toe to toe with the best of them. I just can't trust them due to their goaltending.
Honestly, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, obviously there are. So if Edmonton somehow does make it to the Stanley Cup, I do not think they're winning.
I mean,
Because
look,
I have a good reason to say it. Is because
okay.
if you look at the Western Conference right now, the goaltending on the Western Conference is pretty solid right now. We have we have Hellebuck, we have, oh my god, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Dallas' goalie.
Ottinger.
Ottinger. We have Picker and whatever, and Skinner.
And then Aiden Hill.
They're pretty good goalies. Besides Skinner and mind you, we're saying 2 for Edmonton.
Yeah.
But if you go on the East Coast, the goalies are very good. All the goalies are good. So I feel like if, say, for example, if Edmonton goes against Toronto, Toronto has an advantage because of one goaltending, better goalie, and I feel like they have a little bit of a better team than them. All around team.
It's a tougher. So you can actually like dumb this down to what conference and how they are kind of manipulating themselves, right? The Eastern Conference is a lot of defense. It's a lot of hard-nosed physical plays, right? You look at the Capitals, you look at the Panthers, you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, who I don't want to discount either. Very physical teams. Really go balls to the wall against you on the defensive side of the front, and they have good goaltending. But not to mention all those teams have good offensive sides of things as well, right? You look at the West, it's a lot of high-power offense. High power, high energy star players. So it's just a matter of when you get to a Stanley Cup final like that, it's an unstoppable force going against an immovable object, right? Right? That type of thing. And usually, most of the time, it's the physical defensive team that winds up pulling it out.
Yes.
Not going to say all the time, right? Can Edmonton go belt to ass against the fucking Panthers or against the Toronto Maple Leafs or against the Hurricanes? Absolutely. Is it unlikely? Yes.
I think overall though, for the Western Conference, I've been more excited. It might be fucked up to say, I'm more excited for the Western Conference playoff games this year than the Eastern Conference.
For all the reasons I just said, right? They're higher score, they're higher volume, high danger chances. There's a lot more action in those games where the Eastern Conference, they're forechecking like crazy, they're hitting like crazy. It's just different styles of hockey. Both work, both can get you there. It's just a matter of how well you do it.
Yeah. I feel like it was great for you to bring up Western Conference as a whole, because if we went game by, we could talk about each series for hours.
Of course. Of course. Look, playoff hockey is great because there's little nuances in each game that you can look at, right? The first three games of the Oilers night series, they averaged 7 goals a game combined. And then game 4, it was a 3-0 shutout by the Oilers, right? So the playoffs is such an ebb and flow on how things go. You really got to roll with the punches. Every game is going to be different, especially in a given 7-game series. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's very, very fun to watch. Is there any other... You want to go over to the Eastern Conference and touch on the other series, or you don't want to talk about them because you don't like the team?
I don't think we have to too much, right? I don't want to say it's over because the Capitals are a great team. I just think it's come to an end for them. I think the Hurricanes are going to take that one and finish it up. However, at that same point, I've been a pretty big hater of the Hurricanes throughout this playoffs and throughout the regular season. So I think whoever comes out of Maple Leafs, Florida, is going to beat the shit out of the Hurricanes.
There's one thing I do want to say, and it's kind of fucking funny to me, is so Colorado traded Rantanen to Carolina. Then Carolina traded Rantanen, and they both made it farther than Colorado. Dallas and Carolina. I know it's like, obviously, like, it happens. That's how, like, the trades went. That's how the trades work, but I just find it funny. So, any last topics you want to talk about in the NHL before we segue to my little part?
Yeah, whatever. You stupid whore. I think we're good. I think we predicted what we needed to predict. I think we're both on the same page for a lot of it, to be honest. Maybe a little bit different on the Maple Leafs Panthers series, where I think the Panthers are going to take it. I think you're trending a little bit more on the Maple Leaf side. Um, but we're on the same page here, and it's going to be great to talk about next week when we get to conference finals.
That's gonna be where we could start making our finals predictions, see what's gonna series games, how it's gonna take. It's so funny though how we were so off. Both of us were so off.
Yeah, I mean, look, I put a lot of stock into the Kings just because were unstoppable at home, right? Until they weren't. And I put so much stock in the Lightning because of how good they were post All-Star break, post uh World Champions break. And until they weren't.
Yeah,
I think I underestimated pretty heavily the how good the defending Stanley Cup champions are.
I did say that they would win the series, and so overall we will be back to NHL next week, and hopefully these. I want to see a little spice in these games. I want to make it close. I don't want it to be blowouts like 4-1. I want it to be like maybe going to Game 6. Make it fun. But we're going to transfer over to the NBA to where there's a lot of shits going on.
Woo-woo!
Do you want to start off with your team first? Or do you want to save them for later?
Damn right I want to start off with them. I don't want to waste any time, brother.
All right, sounds good. Let's go.
The New York Knickerbockers. Just outstanding, right? First two games, we talked about it briefly on our shortened edition of the podcast last week, right? First two games, down 20 points each game, really showing a lot of heart, a lot of toughness, coming back, fourth quarter comebacks, winning both of those games on the road. Big game 3 loss, as Derek would say, belt to ass, right? The Celtics beat the living shit out of us. Game 4 was by far the best playoff game the Knicks have played so far in this postseason. From top to bottom, defensively, offensively, moving the ball around perfectly, scoring, not to mention Jalen Brunson being the clutch player of the year that he is, going for 39. I mean, it was just an absolutely perfectly played game. That was one of those games where you looked at the Knicks, and I mean this, that was one of those games where you said they could beat anybody. And it was probably the only game you could say that in this postseason about them. But that is one of those games where you could say that they did it, right? It was so balanced between everything that they did. I mean, you had every single person contributing in this game, right? You had 23 from Bridges, who went off in the second half. OG hit 20. Karl Anthony Towns hit 23. Brunson 39. I gotta show some love to Mitchell Robinson, who has been an absolute stud this entire series for what he does defensively and offensive rebounding. It was just a masterclass. And I could not be prouder of them. I could not be more shocked in them, to say the least, right? And obviously, because you're going to bring it up, I do want to give my well wishes to Jason Tatum, right? Who did confirm tore his Achilles, ruptured his Achilles, had the surgery already. Though that was an instant classic. Brunson and Tatum throwing haymakers at each other in the second half of that game, right? Going bucket for bucket.
3 for 3.
It was awesome to watch. It really was. I wish him a speedy recovery. Thankfully, he's a little bit on the younger side, so hopefully he's able to bounce back in a year or two. But hey, you won a championship. Step aside there, Celtics. Right? You need some new teams in this bitch.
This is crazy. Honest to God, I have nothing but respect for the Knicks, because I was a man who said they would have got swept. I didn't think they were going to take a game. I honestly, there was a part of me that thought they were going to lose to Detroit. A little part of me. But the way the Knicks have been playing has been outstanding. Coaching, Brunson, Cat, Bridges, OG, especially Bridges, where I see him doing a lot is he's finding a lot of like open space with his fadeaway.
Yep.
That motherfucker is using and abusing that fadeaway.
Everybody that we got for this team that we have currently, there was a reason for it.
Yes.
And all of those reasons are culminating, right? You got OG Anunoby and you got Mikal Bridges to cancel out and to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
And it works.
It's worked, right? Tatum had a horrible first 2 games. Jaylen Brown has had a horrible series, right? It's worked. And not to mention, you're 100% correct. Mikal Bridges may be the best mid-range shooter in basketball right now. His shot is gorgeous. Nothing but net when he's within 18 feet of the hoop, right? OG Anunoby playing like a man possessed on the defensive end, turning steals into buckets. Brunson, I mean,
God bless.
What can you say about this gorgeous man? The amount of point guards that the Knicks fans and the Knicks have had to overcome over the years, right? Pablo Prigioni, Raymond Felton, fucking Tony Douglas. It just, the list goes on.
Hey, Linsanity, come on.
The list goes on of horrifying point guards. Frank Ntilikina. I mean, just disgusting point guards. And then this guy not only signs with us, but then signs an extension for $100 million less than his max value because he wants to bring New York a championship.
Which I respect.
It is so refreshing. He earned Clutch Player of the Year, and he continues to show it. Over 100 points in the fourth quarter in the first 10 games of the postseason. Only Kobe has done that before. I mean, like, this is just, astounding stuff. This is what legends are made out of, right? And I did want to give a shout out. I know I've been talking a lot, but it is my Knicks. I wanted to give a big shout out because we gave him a lot of shit going into this postseason. Tibbs. He has coached phenomenal. Kept his players engaged. When they've gone down, he has really reassured them in the huddle, made all the right adjustments, made all the right moves. It's showing that his style of play, which is playing everybody 40 minutes a night, has worked because their conditioning is phenomenal. They're outworking every team. They're outlasting every team. It's great to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I will say this, for the love of God, let's finish in Game 5, New York.
For the first time in 2.5 decades, the New York Knicks are going to a conference final.
All right, a couple of guys need some rest. Let's finish it.
Not a couple of guys. The entire starting lineup needs a fucking rest.
Yeah, particularly OG, who needs some rest.
Yes, that motherfucker is in pain. I don't know what happened to him. I see him limping. It looks like he wants to die. But
he's a warrior.
Overall, the Knicks are playing outstanding. Obviously, the new acquisitions cannot go unnoticed with the OG, Bridges, Cat, all these big moves that you made this year to bring your team to this exact point. And honestly, like, as you said, like what Tibbs has done with the rotation, everyone doubted this. Everyone said, oh, it's not going to work. Players are going to get worn out. They're going to get tired. They're not going to be at full capacity. But they're playing great, passing the ball around very well, playing defense, switching phenomenal. Like, for example, they have OG normally on Jason Tatum when he was there, maybe. But when he was there, and now whenever they set a screen, fucked up. When they set a screen, Mitchell Robinson, the defensive beast, I can't lie, he's a defensive beast. He switched on his wingspan, puts up a lot of trouble for opposing shot. And one person, I need to jump to the Celtics side. There's two people who have absolutely shit the bed. Kristaps Porzingis.
Yep, big time.
He is not even there. It's like
has not scored over 10 points in a singular game yet.
I believe he missed 2 free throws last game.
Yep.
He was 7-4-3 the entire game, which is horrible. You traded pretty much everything for him. You traded Marcus Smart, who the Celtics loved. They literally loved. The fan base loved. For Kristaps Porzingis, mind you, they won a championship last year. Congratulations. But this guy is being a waste of space. Another person, Jaylen Brown. People are saying that there's argues that he could be better than Tatum in a couple of years, or he has the potential to being like an overall star player by himself. What I'm seeing is you can't put him by himself. He needs Tatum for his help. My overall consensus is that, one, this goes down to, for me, coaching. They're not coaching very well. They have leads in damn near every fucking game, and they're blowing it. And honestly horrible shot taking by the play. Like, for example, like Horford's taking a fucking, Kristaps is taking a smothered shot with people in his face. They're not moving the ball around like the Celtics normally do. They're forcing shots so they don't have to.
I think it does go down to coaching a lot. Tibbs has been phenomenal, and I think the key here for the Knicks was, we've talked about it all year. They have so many personalities on this team, right? You could pick anybody in our starting lineup for the most part, and they could be a star on another team, right? It takes a lot of buying into the system, buying into what they're trying to do in order to be not selfish in these situations, in order to work together, in order to trust your brother beside you, to take those switches on defense, as you're mentioning, right? To pass the ball when you know one guy is hot over the other. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to do this, and that's what Tibbs is all about. If you buy in, things are going to work. I want to give props to Cat. This guy has been a star his whole career, and a lot of people had doubts about him, right? Being able to work, being second fiddle to Jalen Brunson. But he's done his role phenomenal. 23 and 11 last game, nothing fancy. 11 for 15, field goal range. He's doing all of his points within the paint, which is what you want to see. Mitchell Robinson knows his role, and he does it well. Does not try to score. He gets offensive rebounds, kicks it out, and he plays great defense, right? Not being selfish, not being stupid about it, not trying to be a dick. That's just what he does. And then all of these other guys filling in. Josh Hart knows his role, right? He is the guy who's going to bring the entire team together. He is the one who's going to be the toughest out of everybody. It's been really fun to watch, and hopefully it continues. Like I said, hopefully they finish it off in Game 5, because I really don't want to see it go to a Game 6, if I'm being completely honest. This is still a very good Celtics team, even without Tatum. So I prefer them to finish it off.
Let's hope they do, because I do not want to see the Celtics in the Western Conference Finals. I do not. I hate the Celtics. As a Heat fan, I fucking hate the Celtics. So
I think everybody hates the Celtics.
I think that's actually an Eastern Conference global fan base thing to hate the Celtics.
Yeah.
But Dean, is there anything else you want to talk about your team, or you want to move on to the other Eastern side?
We can move on. I just want one last time. Fucking Jalen Brunson for MVP.
Oh my god. No, I'm sorry. It's just not even close between Shai and Jokic. He's never touching that. He's never touching that.
I'm talking playoffs, baby.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's Derek to think a little bit.
I have an argument for someone. And
what, in the playoffs?
In the playoffs. On the Eastern Conference side. And he's actually in this next series.
Halliburton?
Yes.
Yeah.
That let's just jump over to that side. The number 1 seed, Cleveland Cavaliers, are getting absolutely stunned. They are fire the coach. I'm kidding. They have a great young team with Mitchell, Garland, Mobley. The list goes on. Their team is very good. But against this Pacer team, they're just not the same. When I saw last game, not this game that's going on right now, when I saw last game, when at halftime it was 80-39, I was stunned. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Is this Pacer team the real deal? And from what I'm seeing right now, they are up by 3 in the fourth quarter. It's a very good game, obviously, because the series has been realistically good every single game besides the last game. Is the Pacers, being the young team that they are, Halliburton, Mathurin, Siakam, Miles Turner, this young team is playing very well. And what I'm seeing in general in the NBA this year, in the playoffs especially, these young teams are showing, motherfucker, we're young, we're taking this shit over. Me, personally, it's very close for, if you say Eastern Conference MVP, if you want to go by that, between Halliburton and Jalen Brunson, because Halliburton's been playing great.
I'm not going to take away anything from Halliburton. I'm not going to take away anything from the Pacers. They have played exceptional, right? They took it to Milwaukee. Milwaukee didn't have a singular chance in hell in that series. They're taking the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, possibly beating them in 5 games, right? We'll see, determined based on how tonight ends. However,
okay, let me hear.
I'm not going to say the Pacers are that Like I think it's less of a case of the Pacers just being that better than people thought, or I think it's the case of the Cavaliers are more fraudulent than people thought.
Ooh.
I think the Cavaliers have absolutely choked harder than Kim Kardashian on a soft mattress bed.
What the hell did you just say?
Like, it is astounding that this team has just completely folded from top to bottom, right? Even, I shouldn't say that. Donovan Mitchell is a stud. Always has been a stud, always will be a stud. However, just in this, and this is just the one game that I'm looking at right now, right? This is a game 5 clincher for Pacers. Donovan Mitchell's shooting 4 for 17, 0 for 7 from 3. Some guys, some teams, some players, they just don't have the clutch gene. They just don't have what it takes in order to take it to the next level. Right? Derek, you're 100% correct. This team has been lights out all year. What was it? They started off, I think it was 12-0, 13-0 to start the year.
No, they started off like 16-0.
And they never looked back. They really didn't. But when it comes to this is inexcusable, right? You have the best team in the NBA, well, besides OKC, who finished, I think, a little bit, maybe a game or two ahead of them. This is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. Evan Mobley, Darius Garland. Garland has not showed up at all this series. Garland has been fucking horrific.
Garland the ghost.
Absolutely horrific. I mean, these are guys that, if you're a Cleveland Cavalier GM, obviously make it a statement to go out there and re-sign Donovan Mitchell to a long-term deal. But you gotta think about blowing it up a little bit. After a performance like this, these guys clearly aren't the performers that you thought they were. Regular season means nothing. Nobody is going to remember you for finishing 64-18 and coming first in the Eastern Conference.
You're right.
I mean, I just think they're going to have to do some pretty big stuff this offseason, and we'll get into it maybe in later podcasts, but who knows, maybe Giannis is on their radar.
Giannis is on many teams right now.
Giannis, but I'm just saying that's one player out of a lot. I think they're going to need to do a lot of work this offseason, the Cavaliers, because what they've done, and yes, the series isn't over yet. The Pacers are only up 2 right now in the 4th, but this is unacceptable. It really is.
I can't agree more, actually, because even though, obviously, they are a young team, Cleveland, even though they don't look young, they are young. Mitchell's young, Garland young, Mobley young, Allen moderately young, DeAndre Hunter, who's been in the starting lineup, young. All of them are young. So I disagree with you on blowing it up this year, because this is their first, I think this is their first year to where they're all fully like healthy together. To where they all started off fully healthy, which if contracts like affect it to where you have to blow it up, blow it up. If it doesn't, don't force a blow up if you don't have to blow it up.
I understand that. On the flip side, I look, and I'm not trying to argue the point at all because it's a good point. There's a couple of things, like one, right? Nobody on this team has any resemblance of championship caliber players in terms of experience. Nobody has been there. Nobody's won. You could say Tristan Thompson, but who gives a fuck, right? He doesn't even play. He just sits there on the bench and touches himself. I think moving some pieces and maybe signing some more veteran players who have been there before may be the best course of action. I think Jared Allen has to go. Get yourself a new center who's actually tougher mentally and physically.
Jesus.
Because he's a bitch. And I think you need to consider moving on from Darius Garland. I'm sure you could get something for him on the open market.
Yeah, I think out of all players, he could go. I don't think that the only 2 players who I could seemingly see untouchable on that team is probably Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley.
I agree. Yes,
because Evan Mobley is when he got drafted, he was drafted I believe he was drafted high, and he's proven what he was. Even though he's silently proving it, he's proving it. So on that side of the point, yes, it's going. They have a lot to work on this upcoming offseason, but this was a very shocker for me. I did not expect the Pacers to potentially take it in 5 games. I'm very shocked, and honestly, congratulations to one, the coaching staff, and two, the young squad, and with Halliburton, Thurm, Siakam, and the list goes on. But that's my last on the East. I want to jump over to the West, to where it's less interesting, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't, and you could tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think we have to talk about too much about Timberwolves Warriors.
No
It's been unfortunate for the Warriors losing Curry to his first ever. By the way, this is a crazy stat. His first ever muscle injury. Like, that's just unbelievable. But yeah, it's been very unfortunate. They don't have the team to pick up for that type of talent and that type of star power. Jimmy's been very good. Even Draymond Green has been very good, but it's just not enough. Nobody can replace Steph Curry. But we do have to talk about, obviously, OKC Denver. What a series. Quite literally, you have two MVPs going against each other, fighting for which one is going to make the conference finals, and most likely, I don't want to be mean to the Timberwolves, but most likely will be making it to the NBA championship. It's been a phenomenal series to watch.
Honestly, I think it lived up to the hype that everyone wanted it to be. And one person who is surprisingly like pulling out a blinder this playoffs is Russell Westbrook. That he's playing for his age as a veteran talent. He's playing very well. Another thing they can't go unnoticed, they don't have Mike Malone. They're going off an assistant coach, and they're keeping it close with the best team.
It's basically the players coaching themselves.
Jokic is the coach. That's real.
There's multiple videos of Jokic losing the fuck out of his mind on the sideline, coaching them up. Same thing with Westbrook, even, which I'm very impressed with. He's taken on that veteran role, as you mentioned, Derek, and he's been coaching up a lot of the players. So they're basically going self-coaching.
Yes, it's
for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's honestly, I'm very happy that the series is close, and obviously the game 5's tonight, to where it pretty much improved. I believe it. Where's this game being taken place? It's
back in OKC.
Okay, and this will be a huge game if the Nuggets are able to take this game. A huge game, because obviously they are the number 1 seed. You want to be able to knock them down a peg. It happened last year. Doncic and Kyrie did it. They knocked them down a peg to force a game 6, and then they won in game 6, and then they won game 6 to go into the Western Conference. It's the same exact thing. And one thing I will say is they're neutralizing Shai very well. I wasn't expecting them to be able to do it, but they are doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
That's another person who I'm kind of disappointed in is Chet Holmgren. That skinny twig of a man is not doing anything, seemingly. But obviously he's going against Jokic 95% of the time, so it is tough for him.
Of course. And to write off that point and staying with that point, I think it's something that a lot of people were concerned with to begin with his career. Kid's got to put on weight. Kid's got to put on muscle. He's a very talented player. He could shoot the three. He could get rebounds. He's very athletic. But when you're going up against these guys, as you just mentioned, Jokic, who is a big boy,
that's a
right?
Big fat boy.
And arguably the best player in the NBA. No slight to SGA, but probably the best player in the NBA over the last 5 years. You're gonna have to be stronger, be more physical, and that's just not Chet's game. I'm sure he will develop that as he gets older within his NBA career, just to try to be more sustainable, because these injuries could derail him if he continues to stay at this. But yes, I agree. He's been a little bit of a disappointment this series. He still has played well. It's just not to his full potential because of who he's going against.
Yeah, it's he's neutralizing him, might add.
It's going to be the same thing against. Let's look at the other side. It's going to be the same thing against Gobert, who would probably neutralize him, right?
It's gonna be worse.
It would be the same thing in the East side, right? Let's just assume for the time being it's Knicks and Pacers. Mitch will fuck him up, right? Miles Turner will fuck his mind and then fuck him up, right? And so he's going to have a tough time no matter who he faces for the rest of these playoffs.
It's obviously, it goes down, that size different. He's literally the size of his fucking golf day. It's bad, obviously, for his, for right now in the situation he's in. But if he brings up his weight, he'll be good. But that's besides the point. We need to stay in this series. overall in this series, I'd say, in my opinion, the team that's had like a little, who's overall played better, in my opinion, is the Nuggets. I feel like this entire series, besides the one plunder to where they lost by like 40, I think that the Nuggets have played a better series overall than the Thunder. Especially the last game, they only lost by 5. Their losses is a close margin. Besides they won the first game by 2. They lost by 43. Then they won by 8, and then they lost by 5. So it's all been close. Besides that one game. So
yeah, other than that one game, this series for either team could be 3-1 right now.
yes.
That's how close it's been. There's really is just a couple of plays here and there for some of those closer games that has been the determining factor. I think it's also just look, and I don't mean to harp on it. I think it's just a testament to how good Jokic is, right? And just being the guy and carrying his team. Murray has had a very phenomenal playoffs. I do want to mention that Aaron Gordon has been very clutch when it comes to that side. Michael Porter's done absolutely nothing. He's been a waste.
I don't know who he
He's
is.
been a waste. He's been an absolute waste of space. So it's just a testament to how good Jokic has been. It's going to be a tough end of the road. However, it's a best out of 3 now, baby. So anybody can win this series.
Yeah, in your opinion, in your non-biased opinion, because I don't know if you have a biased opinion on this, who do you think is taking the series?
I think OKC is going to take it.
You think?
I think OKC is going to take it just because they have so much variety and they have so many guys who can, contribute, whereas Denver, has 3-4 guys that pretty much entail the entirety of their offense. And they have championship caliber players, so that's the only reason why I don't want to say it's a lock and done deal, because Denver's been there, they've won a championship, they know what to do when it comes to that point. I just think it's going to be a little bit tough for them, especially because they're going to have to win at least one in OKC to win this series.
Potentially this one.
Yeah.
So, I disagree. I think Jokic, the veteran, the championship mindset, because that team is pretty much what it was the year they won the championship. It's pretty much exactly what it was. So, I see them taking down the younger team, who still are learning. Obviously, they're young. I think the average age on that team is probably like 27, maybe, at most. So, they still have a lot to learn, and I think Jokic is going to not take control of the series. I was going to say something crazy, but it was going to be out of pocket, the way it sounded. So
I can only imagine what you were going to say.
Yeah, let's just move on from that. But overall, great series. I'm very happy with the series. The other series, obviously, Curry in that series, completely different series.
It's unfortunate. Look, every team in every playoffs has injuries. That sucks because you always want to see the best go against the best, right? Tatum and Brunson, that was just electric. That was just the absolute best thing that basketball could have seen this playoffs. And unfortunately, it had to end with Tatum tearing his Achilles. So, same thing with Golden State, right? Curry going down is pretty much the dagger for them, especially because reports are he's not going to be able to play Game 5 either. So they're going to have to win a game without him, whether it's Game 5, Game 6. They have to. They have no choice. But to replace somebody of that caliber is always tough. Just to draw on my own experience, look at last year, the Knicks, right, going against the Pacers. Brunson, Mitch, Julius Randle, OG, all hurt. Injuries happen. It sucks. It's just a matter of how deep your team is, how well you can recover from it. And sometimes you can't just because of how good these caliber players are. So it obviously stinks. It stinks for Golden State because maybe they're coming at the end of their window with Curry. Would have loved to seen him give it his all for one last shot.
And Jimmy.
It's up to his teammates now, which is not going to bode well probably.
No.
But yeah, definitely disappointing to not see Golden State at their full potential with Curry.
Yeah, and overall, seemingly the only way is if this next Game 5 playoff Jimmy just comes out of nowhere. spawns Miami playoff Jimmy comes out of nowhere where he drops 40 points and when they win the game.
Yeah, you're going to need a little bit of magic, and then beyond Game 5, you're going to have to hope Curry comes back for Game 6, and then you still got to go one game at a time. Your back's up against the wall, so.
Yeah, down 3-1, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. But
the only thing I wanted to end on, Derek, NBA-wise.
Okay, let me hear it.
Who would have thought in their wildest dreams the Eastern Conference Final was going to be Pacers versus Knicks?
Not anyone in a million years. I think if anyone who placed their bets on the matchup, if they would have made that, they would have made $10 million.
Anybody who, if you told me that at the beginning of this regular season, I would have said you're crazy. Midway through the regular season, I would have said you're crazy. Start of the playoffs, I would have said you're fucking insane. Up until now.
It's unfathomable. I can't comprehend it because this is the one thing I want to say. Going into the playoffs, the regular season, which obviously what we've seen, it doesn't mean cock, doesn't mean dick. The Knicks had the worst record against teams above 500. And what I'm seeing is they have the best record against teams above 500. They're playing great against the fucking Celtics. They played great against the Pistons. They're just playing great basketball. And then on the Pacers side, they were, what, the 5th seed? Or the 4th? They're the 4th seed, right below the Knicks. The 3 and the 4 seed, mind you, there's a possibility of the 3 and the 4 seed go into the NBA Finals, which I believe our editor pulled up a stat. That rarely ever happens.
So the stat is that no team below a 3 seed has won the NBA championship in the last 30 years. So so regardless, you're still going to get a not a favorite in the final. However, just let's say hypothetically, and this is obviously way far into the future now, but say the Knicks make the finals and they win the finals. I'm talking in fairyland now. It still would go with that stat, right?
Yes.
Top seed winning. The Pacers would be the ones who would change that, or the Timberwolves for that matter.
Yeah, or the Nuggets.
No, the Nuggets are a 3 seed, aren't they?
Nuggets are a 4 seed. Because they versed the Clippers.
You're 100% correct. The Nuggets are a 4 seed.
Yeah, so I'm like seeing this in like a crazy way. There's a possibility to where it's like either a 4 and a 7 to go to the championship, a 1 and a 7, and then a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3.
Yep.
The 1 seed is seemingly out.
No, oh shut up.
No, on the East. I'm talking about the East.
On the East, absolutely.
I went on this side. East. This is East.
East, absolutely. They could all both those teams, and I'm just pulling it up right now because we did have the luxury of seeing this. The Indiana Pacers have officially eliminated the Cleveland Cavaliers, so the Indiana Pacers are officially the first team to enter the conference finals. Cavaliers all-time choke job.
Oh yeah, and this is one thing. It's huge for the Pacers. They have a lot of rest.
Well, that does depend on the Knicks. If the Knicks win Game 5, the NBA would have them start the conference finals within 3 days.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay. So for your sake, you hope to God that you win this game.
I want to finish it off anyway.
Yes.
I don't want to go to a Game 6.
Then your heart is beating. Heart attack isn't coming.
Next time we go to the Garden, I don't want it to be against the Celtics.
That's fair. That's so crazy how there's a possibility of Eastern Conference Finals being home at the Garden.
And, yep, the Knicks would have home court.
That makes me ill.
That makes me so happy.
For once, like your happiness for your team is like kicking in after everything that's happened. You're like, finally.
It's just exciting to see because of how much disappointment the Knicks have had as a franchise over the last 30 years that we have an opportunity now to not only this year just because of Brunson, right? We're back. We're in the fold of everything. We're in the thick of things. When you think top teams in the NBA, the Knicks are there for the first time in a long time, whether you like it or not.
I don't like it.
So just get over it. You're a salty little Heat fan. Enjoy the Knicks.
Fair enough. But that does conclude our NHL and NBA if Dean has anything to involve in those sports, then we could say something. If not, then we're going to go on to our favorite segment.
Nothing else. Just, go New York Knicks, baby.
Oh, God, this is going to make me ill. Is this how it was when the Eagles won the Super? Is this how I was?
You were pretty bad, yeah.
Okay. This is fair then. All right, well, Dean, introduce us into your favorite segment.
Baller of the week!
The beginning was in, the last was out. The last part of it was out. So it was good. It was very good.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Dean, would you like to start or you want me to start?
I'm going to let you start this one.
Okay. So, my baller of the week is technically, it's a certain organization.
Okay.
Well, it goes down to like a committee. It starts off at the MLB, and it's what the MLB did to them. The MLB did indeed lift ban on Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and 7 other players after they've been deceased to be in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, they've had their little scandals back in the day to where they've done shit that was frowned upon.
Gambling.
Exactly. To where they banned them from the Hall of Fame, which they both had great careers. Which Pete Rose, I could see him being inducted into the Hall of Fame next year. So I think it's just great how the MLB is turning over like a new leaf, I would say, and even letting the past be the past, and after them being deceased, allowing their kids, if they have any, to see their family or in general being in the Hall of Fame, and showcases how good they were as an MLB player.
Yep.
And that is my baller of the week. Very short and very sweet.
Great ball of the week. Pete Rose. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I do think it's a disgrace what the MLB did. They should have reinstated him while he was living. However, I realize the politics of the situation, right? They couldn't have given them that satisfaction. However, yes, Pete Rose should be and will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever play. So looking forward to seeing him in the Hall of Fame. Very nice ball of the week, Derek.
Thank you.
My ball of the week. Little bit different.
I don't know.
It's in the sports world and it's in the real world. So it's a little bit of both, right? My first portion of baller of the week. Pope Leo the 14th. Newly elected Pope for the Roman Catholic Church. It only took 2 days, but this was a big one, ladies and gentlemen. For anybody who doesn't know, or anybody who lives under a rock within the world, 267th Pope has been elected. He took Leo the 14th, the first ever American Pope in the history of the Roman Catholic Church. This is a huge, huge deal for everybody around the world, not just Americans, right? The Pope is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. Billions around the world look up to this man and to look up to the church. So this was such a huge decision on their part to pick the first American to pick. This guy was from Chicago. He graduated Villanova. I mean, he is as American as it gets. It is great to see just a huge, really accomplishment for the world, right? Not just America. But I did want to give a shout out to the newly elected Pope. And then off the back end of that,
Oh, God.
kind of just mentioned it, he's from Villanova. He's a Villanova graduate. There's a few other players in the NBA who are Villanova graduates. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart.
I want to smack you so hard.
I want to give a shout out to Villanova for producing, even though I hate them and I went to a rival school, I want to give a shout out to Villanova for producing some beautiful human beings, right? They just continue to produce first American Pope. That will go down in forever in history. And now they're having Villanova-ites? Wildcats. Let's just call them Wildcats. Wildcats bringing the Knicks to a hopeful Eastern Conference championship. My ending thoughts here. Now that the Pope has been elected, it is an American from Chicago, graduate of Villanova. It is confirmed the Knicks have God on their side.
And
that is where I will end it, ladies and gentlemen.
I was so happy with your ball of the week. I was like, Dean did actually a very wholesome ball of the week, and then it just went.
Look, my real baller of the week is obviously Pope Leo.
Yes.
Right. I don't want to take away from that. Cardinal Robert Prevost, I think is how you pronounce it. I mean, this is such a huge deal, being the first U.S.-born Pope. Out of 267, Derek, there's been one, and this is the first time, and we're able to see it within our lifetime. Just a huge accomplishment. He's only 69 years old, which is a little bit on the younger side for a Pope, believe it or not. So long may he reign. Long may he, bring joy, Catholicism to the world, and I hope he has a very successful term as Pope and head of the Catholic Church.
Yes. And I know, like, this is not like me making a joke, but I just find it crazy, like, to where he grew up from, it's known as, like, it's known as one of the most dangerous spots in the world. It's known as O-Block.
Yeah.
So
you can find good in the worst of places.
Exactly. That's one thing I did want to say is, like, he started off, like, at the bottom in the worst part of the world. Not, like, trying to be an asshole, but that's how it is over there. And going to where he is now he's the Pope.
Yep.
So congratulations to him. And when I saw that, I was happy because America. It's rare. As soon as I saw, like, I did not know that's the first one out of 256.
267.
67, which is by far fucking insane.
Yep.
But that does conclude our very wholesome baller of the weeks. Me going with the MLB, reinstating Pete Rose, and Dean going with the Pope. And then don't forget his little side about Villanova. His little dabble in Villanova. But that does conclude this podcast. Dean, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm hoping to be talking to all of you, all 10 of our viewers next week about the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm looking forward to it. May God be with you.
Now, if they do lose, Dean's gonna have a bottle of Jack next to him. The next
Now, if they do lose, I'm gonna show up to this podcast blacked out with a handle of my favorite single malt scotch, and I am going to say the most unholy things. Sorry, Pope. The most unholy things you could ever hear imaginable from a person's mouth.
Yes, sounds about right. But that does conclude the podcast. Like, subscribe, follow on Instagram, follow on TikTok. Leave us suggestions of what you want us to talk about. Talk to Dean about the mailbag. Talk to me about the mailbag. We'll bring in the mailbags more. My Derek's thoughts will be kicking back in when the NFL starts. My dumb thoughts. Sorry. Dean doesn't like it because I'm dumb. The hamster just goes. But overall, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and peace.